Hello and welcome to another edition of Moments with Mindleaps. I'm so pleased to be joined today by Kenna McCoy, who's going to be coming on online with us shortly. And for those of you who are new to our series, Moments with Mindleaps is a new thing that we're doing every Friday, where we have the opportunity to speak with a dancer, an artist, a researcher, someone who is inspiring and special, and on time. I could hardly say my first sentence, and here comes the lovely Kenna to join me. My name is Rebecca Davis, and I'm the executive director of Mindleaps, and there she is. Oh,
Hi.
hi, Kenna. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much for joining us. I was just saying to our guests that my favorite part of my job right now is this Friday series where I have the chance to speak with people like you, and I get to learn about strategies and things that are successful right now from artists and dancers who are going through a difficult time, but also learning a lot. So I'm so pleased that you're joining us here today, Kenna. Thank you so much.
Of course. Thank you.
The brains behind Moments with Mindleaps is Lamar, and Lamar and I were generating the list of people that we wanted to speak with. And although it's already the end of July, you should know that you were one of the first names on that list when COVID started back in March. So I'm glad that we're finally here together today.
That makes me so happy. Thank you.
Kenna's going to tell us a lot more about her career as a dancer and also as an inspiring person. But some of the things that everybody should know about Kenna is that she has a really interesting trajectory where she was a very talented ballet dancer and modern dancer, and we share a common teacher, Tracy Voigt, together. And Kenna, very early on, while still pursuing all of her dance studies at the high school level, already started to envision what else can dance mean for herself and her community in the world. And it's so unusual for Mindleaps to have the chance to work with professional dancers who started that change, like even in their high school years. So we've been really impressed by Kenna's trajectory. And now that's led her to different cities in the United States, to Rwanda with Mindleaps, and working in all sorts of different professional companies as a dancer, but also building trajectories that relate to her communities wherever she finds herself. So we're going to hear a lot about all of that today, Kenna. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, your friends are already joining before I can even say your name. Emmy, I would try to introduce Kenna in Chinese, but I would fail miserably. Kenna, tell us a little bit. I kind of alluded to the fact that I'm so fascinated with how the arts and dance has guided your life at such a young age. But tell us a little bit about what dance means to you and your life, where it's brought you, where it's come from, what it might mean for your future.
Yeah. So I mean that's a huge question. I feel like at different points in my life, I would give a completely different answer of what dance means to me. But I do know that it's something that has just always been a part of me. I like when I was 3 years old, begged my mom, who's listening, so hi mom, um, to sign me up for dance lessons, and she did. And she tried to get me in all these other like sports or things, and I didn't want to do anything except for dance. So finally, she was like, "All right, you can dance as much as you want. You don't have to do anything else." And I honestly couldn't tell you why I loved it so much as a young kid, but I definitely did. Um, and then I think I know I further fell in love with it. Um, because it's something that can develop, not only it develops your character, and it has made me who I am, and I don't know if I would have the same values and the same just like character that I do without it. Especially like discipline, hard work, and knowing like there's things like I would have to work 2 years at before it got like a little bit better. Like there's this one stretch, it was like the joke of my company called the frog stretch, and it took me like a year to get it like an inch lower, like 1 inch. Um, but it really just taught me how to work hard, and how if you really love something, you can succeed at it. Um, so yeah, I think that's huge. And then I also love the community aspect of it, and I know that my best friends are all whether I met them I got married, and my maid of honor I met like when we were dancing when we were like 3 years old. And pretty much most of my closest friends are all dancers. There's a beautiful sense of community that also really attracts me to dance and encourages others to dance, because you're making art together. Sometimes you're suffering together. Sometimes you're together, or creating together. Um, but yes,
Yeah.
it's a
I think
beautiful
that
space for us being human.
I think what you say about it developing character is like so much kind of the revelation that so many artists go through, no matter the discipline, is that yes, sure, it's their craft and it's what becomes their career, but it's something that like is inextricable with the way they see the world as well. And it's certainly true in the Mindleaps world, and maybe even used in a purposeful way to develop that character, but something that happens, I think, organically too in the arts, which is so beautiful and so powerful. And Kenna, you talked a little bit about the community that dance has created for you, and it's also, I think, something that's so um, magnificent in your young career. How you've already tried to use dance in different communities within the U.S., outside of the U.S., and using it like intentionally as a tool. You've spoken right now about how it's created like your friend network and your social life, but you've also really used it to try to like intentionally get involved in community programs, start community programs, change kids' lives. Share with us a little bit about how your professional career has like woven in element of community for us.
Oh, for sure. So I think, well, Tracy Vogt, she was my teacher and Rebecca's teacher when I was in high school, and she would always miss the month of August because she was in Rwanda teaching dance. And I remember, like, we'd all be so excited. We love her. She's great. So you think, and we'd miss her, and she'd always come back with these beautiful stories. And I honestly, she's kind of my gateway into realizing that I'm not, there's so much you can do with dance. Like, you're not just dancing to get strong techniques so you can get that part in a show, that dance is really a way to impact your communities. So Tracy really showed me that at a young age, and it really, really inspired me to see what I could do with that. And then I know that I was so grateful, especially in high school, for dance. Just I had a rough home life, and I loved being able to just go and escape. And I was so fortunate that my mom could send me to ballet. And I was like, wow, I want everyone to be able to have this same outlet, and the same way to just go and like, you need to just completely focus on something else. You can be super immersed into your art, or if you need to express a certain emotion and get that out, you can have that outlet. So I just knew what a blessing it was for me to have dance, and how that really helped me like get to college and take the most of everything. That I was like, wow, everyone needs to have something like this. So that's really how the community aspect got me involved in reaching communities outside of my own.
There's so many of our friends who are joining, Kenna, from Obuba to Virietta here in North Macedonia to Javier in Kenya. And I think all of them have like that moment of truth that you've shared with us so generously, that, you know, whatever that home life is for you, there was something that was really healing about coming into that dance studio. And I love what you say too about how it's so absorbing mentally that it doesn't really allow you to even try to deal with those other problems, or those all of those like things that were coming into you before you enter the studio. Like, it's so demanding mentally that it forces you into that new space, and that element of healing when something can be so immersive is really something that I think so many of us cling to and try to hold on to. And I know that you saw some of that with some of the Mindleaps youth that you worked with when we had
Yes.
the generous opportunity to capture some of your time, and we're so thrilled about it when you came with us to Rwanda in 2018 and worked with our group of international trainers. So this was a really unusual experience, because normally we ask dancers to travel to a particular country and work with the group of youth that we have there. But we tried to do something totally more ambitious because we had wonderful people like Kenna and Bryce who were willing to come to Rwanda, and we brought all of our top youth trainers from our other African countries to Rwanda for that summer, and then asked some of our most talented teachers like Kenna and Bryce, and I think Hope is coming next week to Moments, to join forces with us to try to push up the level of these outstanding youth. Like, Kenna, tell us a little bit about what that experience was like for you, or I know that's like impossible in like a 2 sentence answer, but some memory or some moment that maybe we can connect to.
I, oh man,
I'm
yeah, no,
asking
sorry then. I don't cry much. I was bawling when I was leaving because I was like, I want to stay here forever. And I was just like, I'm not going to go. I'm going to miss my flight. But to me, I think what made my experience super unique is, one, I wasn't working with younger kids. I was working with people my age, if not older, and all lived together and had that special ability to be friends because we were the same age. We were living together. Um, and we also all had come from completely different backgrounds. Like two people came from Guinea. We had people from Uganda, some from Rwanda, some from Kenya. And it was just that bonded us by kind of being in a new situation that was so unreal to us. Um, Something that was interesting was really just making that just like complete like change from when I was teaching them to when I was just like hanging out with them at the house. So that was a really like interesting dynamic that I had to figure out. But it worked super well just by laying some groundwork. And just, I don't know, as I got to know like Emmy, I know he's here, and
Uba's here.
Uba, and I keep saying there's so many coming in. But as I got to know them, it was here just, I want to teach them that they can essentially take my job and go and train all the people in their homes. That really helped. I loved spending 10 hours a day with them and then also living with them. So we train for 10 hours a day, and then we'd all go home together and we'd eat dinner and we'd wake up, we'd have breakfast, and then we'd go. So we were always together. So I was there for about 5 weeks, but I feel like I know them better than most people that I've spent like a year with because we were there all the time. I think two stories that always come to mind. One is, it was just dance always bonded us. So they take my class twice a day, and the last one was at night. And sometimes the electricity would go out, and anytime it went out, I would put my phone on strobe light and we would have a dance party until it came back on. And that's so much. And those were always like the highlights. Like we'd be so tired, hungry, and just ready to go sleep. But if electricity went out, like that would always go super. The amount of energy and just hard work. Abuba, I'm going to call you out, but it would be 8:30 at night. He'd been there for 12 hours and he'd be like, hey, I want to still practice again. And I'd be like, wow, I have never met someone who would practice 12 hours a day straight. Like, and then another story that strikes me is, so for those of you who do know the Mindleaps training, you have to be loud and vocal. So I completely lost my voice. And Moralai, one of my students, like put together some of their money to buy me these like candies, like suck on, because I thought that would help my throat. And it was one of the most beautiful gifts that I've ever gotten, where I was like, why are you guys spending, like they got like I don't know what the right word would be, but they got a certain amount of money a week to like help me out. And that really blew my mind. And it was also interesting because even though I never taught other, like the students at the center, I still very much bonded with them. Like we had a break, or they'd all watch class. And one of the little girls I really bonded with, Sonia, in ballet class once in a while during a break. But as I was leaving, she took off the crucifix on her rosary and gave it to me. And I kept it with me. Oh, I still keep it with me. It's in my wallet. But my husband, my husband knew about that, and I thought it was the most special thing I've ever, like I brought it with me everywhere. and for our wedding, we remade it.
Oh, wow, Kenna.
Yeah, so this is what Sonia's crucifix looks like. And he remade it for me, but I always will have her in my heart, and just the generosity of the students and how beautiful the Mindleap Center is with just bonding. Like, I bonded with this sweet girl that I didn't like. I never taught her or anything, but just that it always brings tears to my eyes.
Like, so then you'll really appreciate the update, Kenna. So Sonia performed in Ubumunu Arts Festival last week or 2 weeks ago now. So Sonia is one of our talented students, and
That's
Kenna
a
is in Rwanda when we were doing Ubumunu Arts Festival with one of our other dancers, Roy
yeah,
Zachary. And now this year, Sally choreographed the piece, and Sonia's in it. So she performed in Ubumunu this year. So your student and your special moment here lives on in her performances in Rwanda.
that is amazing. I'm so proud of her. That is so cool.
I think if we keep talking long enough, Evelyn and Olivier will try to kidnap you and bring you back to Rwanda.
Evelyn, I miss you so much. I got really, really close, and we're soul sisters to directors or pro. I don't know your title, Evelyn, but she's one of the teachers at Mindleaps, and she helps run the place and is one of the most beautiful souls I've ever met. So everyone is lucky who gets to see Evelyn all the time.
Evelyn was trying to like jump across the ocean to get to your wedding. So
I know.
I know
wanted to
love
make
goes
it.
both ways. Kenna, like I love the fact that you shared with us how much you were. Is not that I was happy that you were crying, but I'm glad that you were bonded with the students so much that you were crying when you left. And I remember getting these photos of like all of the trainers like carrying you like this, and you're like waving your arms. So I had seen by photos that that was a very special day, and thank you so much for all the energy and passion and
Of
skill
course,
for our teams.
of course.
So now with all of that energy, Kenna, and all of these wonderful reflections that you have about what dance really means, tell us, how have you been surviving during COVID? I don't even know where you are right now. I know you are you in Dallas?
Dallas. So yes,
Okay.
I'm in Dallas. So I am teaching at the Dallas Conservatory, pretty full time. And it was very weird when everything shut down, but all the teachers got together and we brainstormed, and we switched all of our classes to Zoom.
Yeah.
So there's like a week period that we took off when everything shut down. But honestly, my schedule stayed about the same, except for we had to cancel performances and like conventions and things like that. But my like technique class schedule stayed completely the same. It was just all on the computer. Definitely weird. The older classes were way easier. I have some like baby classes, like 3 to 6. And when you can't discipline and they're just like on a computer, like I had this one girl who refused to not do ballet standing on her couch. And I was like, you can't do that. But there's nothing I could say to get her off the couch. Like I couldn't like, or like, hey, no. Or like sometimes go away and never come back. And I'd be like, hey, come back like to the computer. So that was definitely weird. It also is challenging having my husband's a PA, so he works in the hospitals, but they would clinic from home, and we live in a loft, so it's just one room. So it'd be like divided, where it was like half would be a dance studio, and I'd be being super loud, and then he would be trying to like take notes and like listen to like things, and it was a mess. But now Texas is, of course, one of the ones reopening right away. But so our studio's open, and we're just doing very small classes. Everyone wear a mask and get their temperature taken, and everything, like the floor is sanitized between every class. And so I've been really lucky with the whole COVID situation. I've been teaching the same, if not more, just because girls want to do privates now. Parents want them to have something to do. So yeah, it's interesting.
There's something about the regularity of the schedule that, like, some of our dancers who've done these interviews with us, we kept talking about is like, you know, what's most important is that some way it stays part of your life and part of your daily schedule, even though it's not what we would wish, or not on stage, or not exactly in like the desired next step of your career, but that it stays there, right? That regularity. So I'm so happy to hear that your schedule has not too far wavered from what it should be. I only wish that
Students just to be able to be like, Wednesday's my ballet day, or it was very helpful.
now we just need all of our countries to open up really quickly so we can steal some of your time and then deliver you back to Dallas.
I am all for it. I would love that.
So then another thing, Kenna, that I think is so interesting and special speaking with you about it is because you're so early on in your career and you're building both your teaching career and your performing career and your international career. I wonder, for especially for some young dancers who are almost the same age as you, and yet still trying to figure out their way and what do they do to kind of make that next step. Like, what kind of words of advice, words of wisdom would you share with these other young artists and dancers who would love to be where you are now?
Definitely. So my biggest, and I fell into this trap, my biggest piece of advice would be to know that there's not one set path of having a dance career. It's not like you join a training program when you're 14 and then you become an apprentice and then you join the company when you're 24. And there's so many paths that you can take, and that you really need to take time to focus in on, okay, what do I love about dance? What do I want out of this? So I actually chose this past year. I did not re-sign with the ballet company I was dancing with because I was very burnt out. And I was like, I love teaching and I know I love dance and this is my career path, but I need to figure out what I need to do. And I think, so I just quit. I've been taking class, teaching a ton. I've never been happier. I do miss performing. And I know that hopefully post-COVID, I can do some freelance work and things like that. But I think what you actually want, and not falling into the trap of like, I'm only a successful dancer if I do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
Or I can only use dance if I reach this one level. I was even so far that I was like, oh, if I quit dance, I have to go to law school. And I'm like, wait, why? I don't want to, right? And maybe one day I'll want to, but it's really just keeping it in the present. That was helpful for me.
I don't know, Kenna. I can't picture you burned out. I'm trying to, like, you say that you were so burned out, and I'm like trying to imagine what a burnt out Kenna looks like, and all I see is a beautiful young dancer smiling away.
I was only burnt out of ballet.
Okay.
So yes, I was like, wow, I want to do something else. I love contemporary ballet, and I just needed to like take a step away where I wasn't taking like 2 hours of class and then a bunch of rehearsal. I was like, I need to take a step back and see what I love. And now I miss it, and I hadn't been to that point. So
It's something. Both Mark Casierto, who preceded you by a couple of years in Rwanda, and then Chase Johnsey, who's also worked with us in Rwanda, said something similar, that like if you get to the point where it's not giving you that, the same things we already talked about, right? That like immersion of mind, that
yes.
that enthusiasm to get up the next morning, then like something's off and you need to like take a more of a winding road to come back and find that passion again. So
Exactly. That's perfect. Yeah. Well said.
and I think also like your point for young dancers is great, that like success doesn't necessarily mean XYZ, and especially in like the traditional ballet world, that's kind of what you're taught growing up. So it's good to remember that there's lots of ways that beauty can be shared with communities. Yeah. Kenna, you're such a beautiful example, not only physically, but also with your heart and your time, about what we wish dancers could embrace in this world, and what we wish teachers would bring to their classes and their students. I'm just so grateful that Tracy made this magic happen, and I'm so grateful that you're a part of the Mindleaps family, and also so grateful that you still have many, many years and decades ahead to help us build what we're building. Thank you so much for being here with us today, and we're so excited to hear more about your students on Zoom, but also wait for the day that you go back to the stage.
That's well said.
Next week on Moments with Mindleaps, your fellow friend from the same trip to Rwanda, Hope Easterbrook, joins us. So we'll stack up your stories together, and we can't wait to see you again in the field, Kenna. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was so good to talk.
Okay. Thanks.
Bye.
Thank you for.
Bye, Evelyn. Bye, Bashir, Emmy, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.